Good morning and welcome to the National Newspaper Publishers Association's Let It Be Known. It is Friday, September 2nd, 2022. Reporting from eToro at the Atlanta Voice shows that there were 20 people arrested in connection to gang-related activity in Metro Atlanta. Many incidents are well connected or connected to well-known celebrities in the city, and that is according to Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, who announced that her office will bring RICO charges against the quote-unquote drug-rich gang. The Atlanta Voice reported that the gang has been implicated in burglaries and home invasions that follow the following celebrities: Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons; Brad Guzan, goalkeeper for the Atlanta United; Marlo Hampton, reality star on the Real Housewives of Atlanta; Grammy-winning star Mariah Carey; and Brittni Mealy, a social media star who has a child with rapper Future. She says, "I will not negotiate with gang members." She said this at a press conference this week. She says, "We're going to find you and send you to prison, and I am not apologizing for that." Willis has made no bones about using the so-called RICO statute, racketeering, and despite momentum at the federal level for the RAP Act, the prosecutor said of the growing questions surrounding the usage of rap lyrics in prosecution of violent crime, she says, "I think if you decide to admit your crimes over a beat, I'm going to use it." We're going to discuss that with Toro of the Atlanta Voice, who has followed this story for some time. We also have with us Denisha Totally Randy Bell from the Houston Forward Times, Sam Collins of the Washington Informer, and we'll discuss the legal ramifications with attorney Robert Tarver of the Tarver Law Firm in New Jersey. Uh, let's start with you, Itoro. You're the one that's doing the reporting on this. We're going to talk about not necessarily the gang that she's charging here, but the idea that she's using RICO in cases, and she said it and you quoted her as saying that if they're going to use it in their lyrics, their beat, then she's going to use it against them. And we know the situation with Gunna and Young Thug. We know that they, from what we know anyway, the main pieces of evidence against them is their lyrics. So Fani Willis is she's going full bore on this RICO charge.
Absolutely. And good morning, everyone. The biggest things coming down from the from Monday's press conference was that, we all colloquially said amongst ourselves, check on your criminal friends, those that are doing fraud or might be dabbling in little things like that, go check on them. But all jokes aside, the biggest thing was that in Atlanta, per se, since the start of the pandemic, there has been widespread cases of crime, burglaries, carjackings, women not being safe, not feeling safe enough to pump their own gas at night. And when Fani came into power in June of 2020, she really came in with a mandate, which was, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to clean up the crime and we're going to prosecute everybody and all this stuff. Because when she came into office, Atlanta was really the only place that was open during the height of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the backdrop that she came in under. And then after that, she's made no bones about using the RICO statute to prosecute everybody. You go back 12 to 13 years to the Atlanta public schools cheating scandal, where when Paul Howard, Dwight Howard's uncle, was Fulton County DA, Fani basically led that whole case from beginning to end, where she used the RICO Act to charge administrators, principals, teachers in the cheating scandal that saw, I believe, 50 people lose their jobs and many others go to prison. Because in her mind, building the RICO case allows for the grand jury to tell the story. She'll be able to tell the story to the grand jury on a grand scale in a 360-degree way. She's also using the RICO Act right now, attempting anyway, to investigate the 2020 election where Donald Trump called Brad Raffensperger and said, I need 11,780 votes to win Georgia.
Right.
We all know what happened there. So this is one of those things where Fani really believes in Rico, and to at least bring everybody in the courtroom and charge them under one umbrella.
Okay, so let's hear what Fani Willis had to say. Let's check out this clip.
So the indictment mentions lyrics from a couple of videos.
It does.
And you were going through the lyrics. James Johnson, congressman, has proposed legislation to limit the use of rap lyrics in prosecutions. Do you have thoughts about that?
I think that I would welcome an opportunity to sit down with Hank Aaron and discuss that proposed legislation. I don't think that it will be successful. I think if you decide to admit your crimes over a beat, I'm going to use it.
And you've used that before with previous gang member arrests. What are your specific responses to the criticism that you're specifically targeting Atlanta's hip-hop community through these lyrics?
I'm not targeting anyone, but however, you do not get to commit crimes in my county and then decide to brag on it, which you do that for a form of intimidation and to further the gang and not be held responsible. One of the lyrics used in this indictment, just one of the lyrics is, me and my crew striking out, striking in all black. Send me the drop, we'll kick in the house. If we steal a car, we're gonna take off the tag. Well, they kicking indoors, committing home invasions, and now I'm using those lyrics that they're admitting to doing that. I'm gonna continue to do that. People can continue to be angry about it. I have some legal advice. Don't confess to crimes on rap lyrics if you do not want them used, or at least get out of my county.
Well, there is the other side of that. Representative Bowman spoke to us about the RAP Act, and here's what he had to say about that.
Unfortunately, America has a long history of criminalizing Black people. And hip hop, in and of itself, has been a way to resist the mass oppression and mass targeting of Black people. And so the speaking out against that oppression, again, is a fundamental right in our Constitution. And this is one of the many mediums that Black men, majority Black men, is Black women, Latinos as well, have used. This has been one of the mediums that have been used to speak out and push back against an oppressive system, which includes law enforcement. So absolutely, this is law enforcement's and the judicial systems and the overall political system's way of continuing to make sure a particular group does not push back and resist against a system that has been oppressing it. You know, democracy is a very fragile thing, you know, and freedom of speech is a fragile thing. If we don't protect it, it will be taken from us.
And by the way, Representative Jamal Bowman of New York, during that interview, he actually dropped some KRS-One lyrics on us. Denisha, totally Randy, before we get the legal mind on this, let me go to you because, you know, there's a couple of things here, and David Youngblood kind of taking my thoughts too. He says, are the lyrics, or are they lyrics, or are they confessions? And he says Rico is just another way of getting private prisons more money. Denisha, your thoughts?
So I do have mixed feelings about this. You know, you can't have, I believe that a lot of rappers kind of romanticize, you know, that era of when those who lived about it, talked about it, it kind of made them some type of way. There's two different ways of living as a rapper and then one in the streets, right? And so you get that street cred. But at the same time, like you said, are they lyrics or are they confessions? So I'm kind of literally on the fence about it because you have to really prove. So unless I am name dropping, I am telling you addresses, I am name dropping the people, I am showing things that I've taken. You know, it's kind of hard. You know, I believe it's kind of hard to use their lyrics against them. But I would love to hear what legal has to say as well.
We're gonna get to Attorney Tarver. We're waiting with bated breath, but we're gonna go to Sam Collins first. Sam, thanks for joining us. Sam, these are lyrics, right? They are. They don't, as I guess Totally Randy was bringing out, that they didn't name names, they didn't say addresses, but your thoughts, your take.
I have a different take. You know, I understand everybody's inclination to be mad at the prosecutor for using lyrics against rappers, but prosecutors are going to do what prosecutors do. Even the thoroughest of street dudes know this. And, you know, I know that we're all away from that life, but in the 80s and even before then, there was a code of ethics that you followed as a street person. You didn't put your business on Front Street. And prosecutors are going to keep doing what they're doing. So if you're going to choose that life, you can't go about it halfway. You can't be talking about it in your lyrics, and then you want to talk about the law in the same breath. It just doesn't show consistency on your part. And as rappers, we really need to hold them accountable in doing that, because they are leading people astray in what they're doing, especially young people. The veil has been put down, you know, at this point.
Wow, good take, Sam. Attorney Tarver, Rico, she's going to have to prove more than lyrics, though, right?
Well, look, Rico is just simply a conspiracy act. It suggests that people work together to commit a crime in some way, and their actions furthered that. But, you know, there's nothing different about using rap lyrics or any other lyrics than there is using a diary that a person wrote down. If you can correlate the facts of what is written or what is said or what is rapped to the actions that a person committed, then that's what we call circumstantial evidence. And a jury is entitled to listen to this. It's not the first time, and it's not new. Back in the 2000 in Florida, there was a case where the prosecutor played lyrics for a jury. There's a Guns N' Roses song. This was a white jury and a white defendant. It's called I Used to Love Her, But I Had to Kill Her. And he had downloaded this song 2 days before he was accused of killing his wife. And ultimately, it was played for the jury. And the jury found that it was relevant. And the jury found that it correlated to the crime. The fact of the matter is that this is nothing new at all. People write. There was also a recent journalist who wrote a book on killing her husband. They used that book later on to say, hey, this is the same pattern and practice that she used to kill her husband. So we're not really dealing with anything new. If the lyrics do not specifically correlate to actions that a person has taken, then you can't use it. And that's what the bottom line to the whole thing is. I do want to address one thing that was said. You know, we do have a fundamental right to speech, but that right is limited. I mean, you don't have a right to claim fire in a crowded theater. The January 6th hearings are all about whether or not you have a right to tell people to come somewhere to cause violence. And there's go right ahead.
Yeah, a great question just came up, and Greg, know I'm gonna boost up my little sis, Dr. Nicole McDaniel. She asked a tremendous question, Attorney Tarver, and this question is for you. We know not all rappers are original, so do they go after the rapper or the writer? Also, are they telling a story like rappers have always done, or is it autobiography? Biographical? So substantiation is critical.
Well, the question really is, why is the poster posting what he or she is posting? That's the probative question for a jury to answer if you're going to put those lyrics in front of a jury. And you know, look, I'm not posting things about roses unless I have some interest in roses. The idea is that you post what you have an interest or relation to. And to the extent that you post things about a crime that mirrors yours, I mean, you know, the gun situation, it's almost like a chronicle of what was done. It's so closely paralleled that any of us could look at that and draw an inference that that's what happened. And that's the question. It's not direct, it's circumstantial. We get a chance to look at it and say, wait, would you post that in the abstract if you had nothing to do with the crime that was originally charged.
And one other question directly for you, I think it's a question for you, Attorney Tarver. Then we go back to the journalist. David Youngblood says Rico sweeps up even the smallest participants who do not deserve prison. What about that aspect? Because when you get wrapped into a Rico situation, it could just be someone just on the fringes, not necessarily involved.
There are 35 crimes that are allowed under the Rico statute. To the extent that anyone participates in any way in the furtherance of any of those crimes, they can be charged. But ultimately, if you are charged with that, and if you're found guilty, there will be a judge, a federal judge, who decides the level of culpability you have. Now, look, you may not be the person who pulled the trigger, but you may be a person who financed pulling the trigger or helped someone get rid of a gun or something else like that. And all of that conduct is taken into account for sentencing. But there's a maxim in criminal law that there are no free crimes. And so if you're going to participate in some way, your level of participation is going to be weighed, and you're going to have to pay for that.
So let me bring back the journalist. Let me go back to Itoro. So Fani Willis this is not, make no mistake, we don't want to make any mistakes and say that she's only picking on rappers, right? This has been in her, a tool she's used since taking office, right? This Rico charge.
Absolutely. This isn't the first time. Like I said earlier, she used the Rico Act to prosecute teachers and administrators in the Atlanta public schools cheating scandal, where they were manufacturing grades and standardized test scores, to pass kids along, in the previous decade, in the 2000s, where many administrators lost their jobs, lost their licenses and all that stuff in order to artificially inflate grades and stuff like that. So she is a firm believer in Rico. I remember when Sharon Reed interviewed her in our offices when she was running for Fulton County DA, that was brought up. And she said she believes that, again, if you participated in any portion of the crime whatsoever, you deserve to have your day in court because it is in the public interest.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So I want to go to Sam. Thanks, Itoro. You got to check out Itoro's reporting on this in the Atlanta Voice. You can go online at the Atlanta Voice if you're not in Atlanta, where you can actually pick up a physical paper, but go online anyway. But Sam, you heard what the attorney Tarver of the Tarver Law Firm in New Jersey, he was saying. But understand this: how do we remove the history in this country? This country has with Black people in hip hop. Many of these stories are just not true. We know that they make up a lot of things, or they just ad lib to what's really happened in their community.
That might have been the case, at some point, I think in the 80s and 90s. But as somebody who works closely with young people, like I said earlier, reality and the lyrics are becoming more and more aligned every day. And if you look at the drill scene, that is a primary example. We have street dudes who are rappers. Rappers are no longer in it for the craft for the most part. But these are street dudes who are articulating what they have done to their opponents in the streets after they have done it. And of course, you can't depend wholly on lyrics, but as journalists, I would parallel lyrics as interviewing somebody on background. You're using what the person said on their lyrics to tie a case together. And if you look at the whole Young Thug, YFN Lucci situation, where Young Thug and whoever he's affiliated with allegedly put a hit out on YFN Lucci, that was part of the Rico case. Correct me if I'm wrong. But at the very same time, when we're talking about music, reality and the lyrics are aligned at this point. We have rappers literally celebrating their quote unquote wins on wax. And these are what attorneys are using, especially in the age of social media. These kids are making it easier and easier to get prosecuted. And I just cannot, use or parallel that with the history of discrimination, because at this point, it has gotten totally egregious.
Well, before I go to Denisha, Walter Hill writes that Rico is overreaching because it was founded for mobs, which is certainly true. We know that for the mafia. However, black and brown people, he writes, have been disproportionately affected. It was clearly meant to deter others taking over the transport and factory goods by commerce. Denisha, your thoughts?
No, I totally agree. You know, like you said, we can even go to one of my guilty pleasure favorite rappers, King Von. You know, he's no longer with us. But when you start naming in your lyrics and you're celebrating your wins of people, you're smoking packs of people, right? That you've killed or that your gang affiliation, your gang members have killed, and you're saying that on your in your lyrics. Again, you can't be upset with what she's doing. What she's trying to do is literally remove and nip it in the bud any type of violence that is coming from these gang members. I like that she said that they are becoming more savvy in the way that they target you, because that's absolutely true. We see that, right? And I think I think we have an opportunity to have a conversation within the music industry, within our legends of the rap industry, and have them connect with the young ones of the music industry and hip hop and rap. And we have an opportunity to really, really, really educate these people, or at least try, because they're going to be doing 20. She said the rest of your days, 25 years to life, for participating in a crime. So again, I feel like we are at a really great. I'm going to agree with the Atlanta Voice. So sorry if I didn't remember your name, but I'm going to agree with him. We are in a particular time right now where we're seeing that, unfortunately, this is where the generation is heading, and we have an opportunity to kind of stop it the same way she's nipping it in the bud as well.
Yeah, Attorney Tarver says that he had too many gang clients broadcast their crimes. But I want to go back, Attorney Tarver, to the RICO charges. A couple of things. One, Senator Lindsey Graham went out the other day and said that if Donald Trump, based on the raid at Mar-a-Lago and the investigation, if he's arrested, that he essentially said there will be riots. He and the way he said it, many interpreted it as he's calling for this. So, and I say that to say, and I guess you know where I'm going with this. Doesn't that so that too falls in that category of RICO?
Not at all. Not at all.
No.
He can express an opinion as to what he believes may happen with something, but unless he goes out and says there will be riots and I will fund those individuals who are going to riot, or in some way I am providing an instrumentality, not just words, because words can't be the instrumentality for moving a crime forward unless those words are accompanied by some sort of action that allows that to happen. So we there's a big category and big gap between free speech and RICO actions. Part of the issue here, realistically, is that it's not just about speech. It really is about broadcasting what individuals are doing. It's almost a corollary. And social media has completely changed the entire construct, such that this generation, which is very narcissistic, feels a need to broadcast every place where they are. I'm here, I'm there, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And it is their narcissism, which is characteristic of this generation and this time, which is really responsible for bringing them to their knees here. I had a client who robbed a casino, okay?
Oh, God.
And what does he do? He then decides he's going to place the casino money on the web, laid out with the serial numbers.
Let me ask you, Attorney Tarver, did you smack him around?
You can't make it up. And look, if you're going to be stupid about your crimes, you need to pay for your crimes.
But Attorney Tarver, January 6th.
Yeah.
That's the very definition of RICO, isn't it? What happened there? The Capitol riots?
It actually is. And again,
but there's no RICO charge there.
Well, the difficulty is, what did the speech equate to? Calling people to Washington. It depends on how far and how high you want to go. There are people who are going to go in that RICO. As soon as we get past this election, I predict there are people who will go in that RICO. But the question is, how high is Trump's speech of saying, come to Washington, it will be wild, strong enough to lock him in to the conspiracy portion of this?
Mm-hmm.
Did he know that that was going to happen? Did he further that happening, or was it almost a foregone conclusion that it would happen?
Yeah, but not just Donald Trump, right? I mean, we saw, I mean, hundreds of people took part in that. My point is, we have not seen a RICO charge come out of that, though.
Well, the reason why you can't do RICO with that many people is basically 800 people have been involved in this thing, and hundreds have been prosecuted. If you did that, you'd have to bring them all in to the same conspiracy count, and they'd have to be tried together in terms of the conspiracy. So you have to separate them. Their crimes were separate enough that you could do that. But if you try to do a RICO with 400 people, that's untenable.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
Present.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you the whole, we talk about hip hop, we talk about the RICO charge and how it was a mafia thing. This is how they went after the mafia. They found an effective way to do that, but it really transferred over to being an attack or in a way to lock up African Americans after the situation in New York. And Attorney Tarver, you may remember this. Edward Byrne, the young police officer, was murdered in Queens, and that changed everything when it came nationally, when it came to the RICO statute. And of course, the RICO, just to be clear, 2 or more people have to participate for it to be a racketeering charge, right, Attorney Tarver?
Right. These things evolve. They evolve, Stacey. So, for example, in the 1920s, no one ever thought that the IRS tax code would be the downfall of Al Capone. But they used that, and then they've successfully used that in so many other criminal prosecutions over the years when no one even thought about it before. And so, these things have the tools of law enforcement evolve. I can tell you that as a former prosecutor and as a current defense attorney. I've used conspiracy counts and I've defended RICO cases. The fact of the matter is, you're going to find wherever it's applicable, whatever it is, even if it's in corporate America, you can use and do use RICO.
Well, Randy, you talked about your favorite rapper, and but talk about, if you will, so artists in general. It's not just in rap, right? Do we find lyrics that glorify some sort of violent act or crime? In fact, I think Attorney Tarver mentioned earlier about Guns N' Roses, but we don't see or hear about, and this is the first time, believe it or not, I heard about the Guns N' Roses thing. It kind of rings a bell, but I don't remember it the way Attorney Tarver does. I'm glad he brought that up, but totally, Randy, we're not seeing that, right?
Right, same. So same thing, because I'm a Guns N' Roses fan. I'm a huge rock fan, by the way, as well.
Mm-hmm.
And just to come back, my favorite rapper is Jay-Z. So I just like, but King Von is really, I like him too. But that's true. And here's what I say to that, Stacey. Honestly, I'm going to quote Jim Carrey from Big Fat Liar. I think it's Big Fat Liar. I can't remember which one, but Jim Carrey literally says in that movie, "Stop breaking the law." He's a lawyer. I don't know what to tell. People love to say, well, it's not happening for the rock category. It's not happening for this group. It's just targeted on us. Stop breaking the law.
You got to do it. You got to do it again. The way Jim Carrey did it. You got to do it.
Yeah, he was like, he took the phone and was like, "Stop breaking the law," and he called him a name afterwards. But
right.
It really applies. Like, you can't say we're being targeted when it's almost as if you wear a shirt saying, "Free my homeboy," but your homeboy broke into 85 homes. You know what I mean? Like, stop breaking the law, period. And then you won't be targeted.
Well, and I hear you totally, Sam. We've heard a lot this morning, and there are still going to be some who, I think Denisha nailed it. Stop breaking the law. There'll be some who say, yeah, but there truly isn't a yeah, but, right?
I mean, I don't necessarily think so, to tell you the truth, because, there's been a downfall in the craft, you know, over time. And like I said, you know, reality and lyricism are one and the same at this point. It's less so about the quality and about the craft and more so about, you know, flaunting wealth and establishing rapport among you and your crew. And if you look at Rico by definition, or, you know, criminal enterprises and, you know, mafia mob types, rappers are fashioning themselves as that, you know, like these days. You know, if you look at the Young Thug Gunner situation, correct me if I'm wrong, they have fashioned themselves as a group, you know. So it's a record label and whatever else they do, you know, under the guise of a record label. So this has been going on for decades. And I think it's time that we as a community have a conversation. And I'm going to sound very conservative in saying this, but you know, it's about time that we, and I always say this as well, that we look at ourselves and look at what we can do as a community in preventing this, because the prosecutor is doing what the prosecutor has always done, but we are making it entirely too easy for them. And social media is raising our children, because this happens even in Washington, D.C. Drill rappers in D.C. died by the dozens because of beef that gets proliferated over wax. And the music videos have gotten even more heinous. If you give somebody $500, they can shoot a video in their hood with people brandishing guns, and they have all the effects. The videos have gotten less and less creative. Back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was the storyline. No longer is that the case. It can be a dozen or so of y'all standing in front of a housing project brandishing weapons. So we got to get back to the craft instead of talking about beef and who has bigger guns and this and that. Last thing, even Gucci Mane, because Gucci Mane, when I was coming up, you know, he beat that case. He killed somebody who Young Jeezy allegedly sent to go steal his chain. Okay. And he talked about it on wax about, you know, smoking Pookie Loc. Okay. Pookie Loc Pack. Okay. And recently he went on wax to condemn that type of behavior, because even he is seeing that it is getting out of hand. So we got to take that. So we got to take heed to that. You know, usually I'm against Babylon and the prosecution, but if the prosecution is doing their job, then we got to learn how to do our job as a people. You
got to be smarter, right? Walter Hill, Walter, we appreciate your different perspectives that you bring. We really do. He says we are being targeted. Rapping is not breaking the law; it's expressing the culture. Rico for rapping. Come on, guy. It's about being guilty for being able to make money off what the society created. Itoro, we do have to be responsible for our actions, though, right?
I think the biggest thing is just, like you say, you have to be responsible, because you know, there have been plenty of times where, you know, I've in my time in Atlanta, I photographed about 1,500 parties. You name the celeb, you name the rapper, you name the athlete, it's whatever, and you see all kinds of fraud, unemployment fraud, PPP, SBA loans, credit card fraud, bank fraud, all this stuff going on, just so that, you know, they can go pop bottles in the club and get women and do what they do. But, you know, the biggest thing now is that, I guess the difference between then and now is that because we got this in our hand, because we got these in our hands and Instagram, and it's like we gotta put, you know, we gotta have the money phones now, and it's like, hey man, you know, the money calling, I don't hear nobody picking up, and it's like, listen, like at some point, like you either, if you're gonna live that life, don't tell on yourself. And that's the first thing. But then after that, it's like we all have to be accountable at some point, you know, because the thing with Atlanta is that, and I think I had a conversation with your producer about it the other day, which is that, hey, you know, you don't know what these people got going on. You don't know what these people have, you know, in their heads, in their minds, in their hearts. But at the end of the day, it's like you got to make sure that you have to be on the right side of the law no matter what, because at the end of the day, the feds are always watching, as 2 Chainz said.
And Stacey, I wanted to just hop back in one quick second and say, If you go to the African American Museum for the Museum for African American Music in Nashville,
Oh yeah, I've been there.
right, when you go in, they have DJ Kool Herc's, because he hip hop, okay, which just passed National Hip Hop Day. They have his little message there, and then there's a place where you walk in and it says the message. And I always, ever since I visited that museum, I always ask myself, how did we get from what we like to say as protest rapping now, or message rapping, like you had NWA and them saying F the police for a reason. How did we get from that to Throat Baby, right? Like when Sam mentioned that, no, seriously, when Sam mentioned that, maybe there's an opportunity for us to have a conversation around the craft, it's almost as if hip hop has moved towards a way where the lyrics are jokes. We're just talking about smoking on packs, killing people. We're talking about gang violence. We're talking about violence. Where's the messaging that actually started in hip hop? Like I said, I really feel like we have an opportunity for the community, like, agreeing with Sam, to come together and we handle it internally before, we end up seeing all of our young ones just serving out their days in prison.
Yeah, hip hop, the message, for instance, you say, where's the message? The message back then, Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, there was a message. The song was The Message, probably the greatest rap song ever made. And there was a message, right? It's like a jungle sometimes.
But there is a message here, and that's part of the problem. Let me just offer this.
Mm-hmm.
Music is the cultural vanguard of a society, such that you can always identify where a society is at any given time by the music that proliferates in that particular society and that particular culture. The 1970s, the love music, the 1960s and 70s and early 80s, the civil rights type music. And now we have degenerated in this genre of criminal rap. And I'm going to call it criminal rap because all it does is proliferate and move forward the idea of criminal behavior. You spoke about Walter's statement to you that we are being unfairly targeted and this represents our culture. This should not represent our culture, and that's part of the problem. If our culture has become proliferated by criminalization, then that's a problem for us. And I think Sam has made a brilliant point here that what is really happening here is that music is not driving the acts. The acts are created specifically. The music is created specifically to illustrate the criminal act. It's not a craft anymore. It is basically an advertisement of your criminal behavior and a narcissistic expression of that. And we can't tolerate it.
Wow. I like that. I would love to get Walter Hill and David Youngblood together on one of our programs and have them debate some things. These two bring some interesting and some really great perspectives all the time. We certainly appreciate them. We appreciate you, Attorney Tarver. Certainly appreciate Denisha. Totally Randy Bell. Check her out at the Forward Times and on social media. She's incredible. And Itoro, again, go to the Atlanta Voice for his coverage of this situation. And Sam Collins, Sam is the man as always. He covers DC, Howard University. He's an educator, Washington Informer. Check him out there as well. And keep checking us out. Go to our YouTube page, subscribe to it. It's free. It's not going to cost you anything. And it's probably a better viewing experience. Plus, we're going to have some really great things to come on the YouTube page. And I dare say exclusively for the YouTube page that you won't want to miss coming up. So thanks for tuning in. We will catch you next week.